Hey guys, before I start this video, I feel like I owe it to you to address two things. First, and most important thing that I want to mention is why I included Death on my missing characters list last time. The thing about Death was he was originally voiced by Norm Macdonald when he was first introduced, but his voice actor quickly changed to Adam Carolla, and that's why I included him on my missing characters video. Now, it is possible that the creators of the show aren't going to bring Death back out of respect to Norm Macdonald, but only time will tell about this situation. The second thing I want to address is that the reason why my audio sounded so choppy was because I would record my videos on an iPhone and then edit them in Filmora. I don't really know what to say other than I was a baller on a budget, and the only people who were watching my video for the longest times were family and friends, but I upgraded to a much better microphone, so you guys should be able to hear me more clearly. I want to say thank you guys so much for leaving these character suggestions, because I really didn't think there were enough characters to make another list, but thanks to your guys' comments and suggestions, I actually did find enough characters to make another top 10 video for this. The final thing I would like to say though is if you like these videos and you want to leave me suggestions and ideas and topics that I should cover in the future, please feel free to join my Discord. We have a very active community and everybody there is really helpful and friendly. The link for my Discord will be in a pinned comment, and it'll also be down in the description below. Alright guys, with all that out of the way, let's begin. Number 1. The Nudist Family. If you watched the early episodes of Family Guy, you might remember the Nudist Family. The Nudist Family consisted of Dave Campbell, Jeff Campbell, and Dottie Campbell. The Nudist Family first appeared in Season 2, Episode 18, titled From Meathod to Madness. This episode would also go on to be the first time that Olivia was introduced. In the episode, Dave is found by Peter after he had drifted into the middle of the ocean while Peter was working briefly as a sailor. In the episode, Meg ends up having a crush on Dave and Dottie's son Jeff, but the Griffins aren't enthusiastic about the fact that Meg has taken a liking to him because it was unknown to Peter when he had saved Jeff that the family were nudists.
It's okay, Meg. I understand what's going on here. I'm gonna go.
Oh, just step on these coasters on your way out. There we go. Yeah, don't step on the hot lava. The carpet is hot lava.
I can't believe you guys!
Meg, how could you bring that naked kid into our house?
Pretty much, the episode revolves around the Griffins coming to an understanding of the Campbells, and after Peter and Lois make an effort to make Jeff feel more welcome in their home, Jeff thanks them before leaving. On a side note, this episode actually includes one of the funniest Herbert clips where he is perving out on Jeff.
Holy moly, it must be my birthday.
After this episode, Dave and Dottie make an appearance just 2 episodes later in Season 3, Episode 20, titled Road to Europe, where they are at the Kiss concert that Peter and Lois go to. Peter and Dave end up getting into an argument about who is a bigger Kiss fan, but it's clearly shown that they are equally as enthusiastic about Kiss as each other. The Campbells do briefly appear once again in the episode PTV during the FCC song. Now, a lot of people don't know this because it's DVD exclusive, but the Campbells end up making a cameo in Stewie Griffin: The Untold Story. I'm not gonna lie, I've considered making a video talking about the DVD version of Stewie Griffin: The Untold Story, because besides some re-uploads, most people don't know about the differences between. Just 3 episodes later, James Bottomtooth again makes a cameo in Season 7, Episode 12, titled 420. During the Bag of Weed song, a bag of weed is seen falling into James's mouth. After this, James Bottomtooth's last known appearance is in Season 9, Episode 14, titled Teigs for 2, where he can be seen attending.
Ticked off if I put this, just put that right there, just right in that spot, right there on the couch. Hey, Marion's giving you a thumbs up. You know what we should do? We should let it sit here for a couple of weeks and see if it pickles. If after 3 weeks it pickles, then she's real, and we both have to buy Patrick a steak.
Now, while Patrick was in Brookfield, he came to the conclusion that Gleason was an evil man because he was fat, leading him to hating fat people with a burning passion. After Lois let Patrick out of the insane asylum, he ended up showing some odd behaviors. Even though the family is starting to take notice of this, all Lois can see is her brother that her parents locked away for 30 years, and that the isolation has caused him to have an imaginary friend. Anyways, during Patrick's release, he ends up becoming a serial killer, and the serial killer becomes known as the Fat Guy Strangler. The episode ends with Patrick trying to kill Peter, and during the confrontation, Brian has a rock, but instead of throwing it at Patrick, he throws it at Peter and says it's because of when he rolled up the windows when he tried to get into the General Lee. Now, a lot of people didn't get this, but this joke is actually a throwback to Season 3, Episode 12, titled To Love and Die Dixie. And in the episode, when Brian tries to get into Peter's car, it's called the General Lee, and the windows were rolled up and it caused Brian to get hurt. Sorry if I got a little off track there, but anyways, the episode ended with Lois threatening to kill Patrick's invisible wife Miriam, and after this, Patrick is taken back to the institution. Now, after this, we don't see Patrick again until Season 10, Episode 16, titled Killer Queen.
キラークイーンはすでにドアノブに触っている。
I know, I reused that joke, but I'm sorry, I'll take a JoJo's reference whenever I can. So, pretty much in the episode, Patrick is accused of being the Fat Guy Strangler, but it turns out to not be him. The person who was going around strangling was actually a person named Yamamoto, who Chris managed to beat in an eating competition. In the episode, Patrick actually ended up helping the investigation by giving the police an insight into the mind of a Fat Guy Strangler. But after they catch Yamamoto, Patrick has taken off and gone into hiding, and to this point, Patrick has never been seen again. Number 4, Carol's Baby. This one is going to be fast because there isn't too much information about this. In Family Guy Season 3, Episode 11, titled Mission Impossible, Lois's sister Carol gives birth to a baby boy, which would make this baby the cousin of Stewie, Meg, and Chris. We don't see this character ever again, though. Even during the Thanksgiving dinner, Carol didn't bring her baby. To add even more to this, her son hasn't even been mentioned or referenced in any other episodes. Now, we do know that Lois's sister Carol is mentally unstable and that she has had 9 ex-husbands, and maybe one of her ex-husbands won custody in the court battle, and that's why we've never seen her son again. That's all speculation though, and the truth is we don't know what happened to her son. I've tried looking as deeply into this as I can. I even went as far as going back to Reddit posts from 8 years ago, but as far as I can find, I don't think there's any more information on this character. Number 5, Holden Caulfield, also known as the Phony Guy. Holden was the main character in the book The Catcher in the Rye, and in Family Guy he ended up becoming known as the Phony Guy. He was first introduced in Season 3, Episode 8, titled The Kiss Scene Around the World. In this episode, Peter is pretending to play a piano, and Holden is very impressed up until he finds out that Peter can't actually play the piano. Once Holden finds out Peter is pretending to play the piano, Holden freaks out and starts calling Peter a phony. Holden even goes as far as spray painting the word phony on the Griffin's car, followed by him going in front of the Griffin's house and telling everybody in the street that passes by that they are phonies. Clearly he is going completely overboard over something really small, but this ended up making him a reoccurring character in the show for a while. Later in The Kiss Scene Around the World, Neil tells Meg that he wasn't really going to jump off the building after she publicly rejected him over live TV, but Holden hears this and immediately targets Neil as the phony. Now, there's a little bit of confusion about the other appearances, mostly because of how Hulu has When You Wish Upon a Weinstein listed versus when it actually premiered on TV. This is because the episode was famously pulled on Fox, and looking through the Family Guy wiki, at least to my knowledge, there are a few of the appearances that I should mark off as inaccurate. I could be wrong, but to not spill misinformation, I'm going to move on to a few of his later appearances. Holden later appears in Something 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 Darkside as a higher-up member of the Empire alongside Bruce. Holden was later mentioned in Jerome is the New Black, and he also had a voice-only cameo in Follow the Money. His last appearance was in Season 17, Episode 15, titled No Giggity, No Doubt. Holden can be seen in the crowd of people Peter suggested should go with Meg, Quagmire, and Quagmire's daughter on a camping trip instead of him. In this scene, Holden can be found front and center right behind the ghosts of Angela and Adam West. This is his last known appearance, and honestly, with as sporadic as he appears in the series, I do think we will eventually see him again. Number 6. Greased Up Deaf Guy. Greased Up Deaf Guy was first introduced in Season 3, Episode 1 titled The Thin White Line. In this episode, he was participating in Mr. Weed's annual picnic games. The game Greased Up Deaf Guy participated in was actually called Catch the Greased Up Deaf Guy, but to his credit, he must be pretty good at the game since nobody was actually able to catch him. His next appearance was in Season 4, Episode 1 titled North by Quahog, where he claimed he was the first Noel. In this episode, he appears before Lois leaves so her family can spend Christmas without her. Now, my final thoughts on this topic is I don't think he is going to disappear forever. In my mind, he seems like a staple, classic Family Guy character who can be inserted into any gag, so the writing staff will probably keep him around, but only time will tell. Number 7. Santos and Pascal, also known as the Portuguese Fishermen. The Portuguese fishermen were immigrants that worked under Peter during his not-so-memorable time as a fisherman during most of Season 3. Portuguese fishermen are supposed to represent the large Portuguese-American community in Rhode Island. And of course, because Quahog is located in Rhode Island, it makes sense why the writers wanted to include their representation in the show. In Season 4, Episode 8, titled 8 Rules for Buying My Teenage Daughter, the Portuguese fishermen show up as candidates to be Stewie's babysitter.
Well, first let me thank you for answering the ad. Now, what do you feel qualifies you to be an effective babysitter for Stewie?
A gente é ótima com os meninos.
We couldn't run an ad that said no Portuguese, but, no Portuguese.
Another thing to note too is that they actually saved Joe's life when he fell off of Carter's yacht. Now, eventually Peter couldn't afford to pay Santos and Pasquale anymore, so in Season 4, Episode 12, titled The Perfect Castaway, Peter decided to shoot at the two of them as they swam away to safety. Now, moving to the final 2 times these characters were mentioned, it is in Season 10, Episode 3, titled Screams of Silence.
You going fishing again?
Yes, Lois, I love fishing. Remember fishing was my not-at-all memorable job for 2 years?
No.
You don't remember my fishing boat? You don't remember Santos and Pasquale?
Not even a little.
They were like male consuelas. It was a mistake making them Portuguese, though. People don't even know what a Portuguese is. That's what I thought a Portuguese was. Me and my brain, huh? And we're just getting started.
Honestly, from this conversation, it seems like they're not going to do anything more with these 2 characters, and I doubt we'll see them again, except maybe in background roles. Number 8. Chris's classmate Barbara. Barbara was one of Chris's classmates, and in the early seasons of Family Guy, Chris had a bit of a crush on her. One of Barbara's notable appearances is in Season 3, Episode 9, titled Mr. Saturday Night. After the class is uninterested in Peter's job at the Happy-Go-Lucky Toy Factory, Barbara is the one who suggests that they listen to the claim suggestion instead.
Oh, yeah! Thank you, Mr. Goldman. And our final speaker is Mr. Peter Griffin.
Yeah! Hey, kids! Hey, you know what I do? I work in a toy factory. And you know what I do there?
I bet you're just one of those low-level assembly line guys who stand there all day screwing heads on dolls. Ooh, is it on straight? I don't know. Boo!
Why, you little snot-nose...
Mr. Griffin! He plays kickball in the park after school. Get him there. So does anyone have any questions for Mr. Griffin?
Yeah, can we listen to the claims adjuster again?
Now, after this, we saw Barbara again just 3 episodes later in Season 3, Episode 12, titled To Live and Die Dixie. In this episode, Chris ends up buying her a bottle of perfume, and she thinks it is very thoughtful and sweet, but then Chris proceeds to spray it into her eyes, causing her extreme pain. In this episode, Barbara is used as a plot point to show that Chris is very bad at talking to women, and it helps set up the narrative for him meeting Sam, and everything goes well until Chris finds out that Sam is actually a girl. Chris ends up learning to talk to women a lot better after his interactions with Sam, but this isn't the last time we see Barbara. So later on in one of my favorite episodes, Season 6, Episode 12, titled Long John Peter, Chris ends up falling for a girl named Anna, and the two of them really hit it off. Of course, this is until Peter gives Chris terrible advice, where he tells Chris to treat Anna like crap. After Chris follows Peter's terrible advice, Anna ends up dumping him. Now, after this, Peter tries to find Chris a new girlfriend, and in the process of doing so, he sets Chris up on some blind dates, and one of the girls that he ends up going on a date with is Barbara.
Chris, this is Barbara, the girl from your class you used to have a crush on. Now you kids enjoy yourselves and I'll create some atmosphere. This is a favorite by Men at Work. Get a bird in your head up and up. Get a bird up and up. Look at me with a brand new Hyundai.
Now, after this, we don't see her again, but a fun fact that I thought I would bring up is she is voiced by Seth MacFarlane's sister, Rachel MacFarlane. When it comes to Barbara, I think she is a forgotten character and a relic of old Family Guy, and I doubt we'll ever see her again. Number 9. Jake Tucker. Jake Tucker is the son of Tom Tucker and his wife Stacy Tucker. Jake Tucker's most notable feature is the fact that his face is upside down, and he tends to be a bit of a brat, mostly because of his parents' neglect. When Jake was in middle school, he ended up getting Chris in trouble for bringing alcohol to the middle school dance. Later in the episode, Brian and Stewie end up planting drugs in Jake's locker after Tom Tucker refuses to believe that his son was the one who brought alcohol to the school dance. Now, I'm kind of skipping through Jake a little quickly because he usually just has cameo roles, but his next notable role was in Season 4, Episode 8, titled 8 Rules About Buying My Teenage Daughter. In the episode, Meg is jealous that Neil has a new girlfriend, so she attempts to use Jake to make him jealous. After this, his next notable appearance was in Season 5, Episode 2, titled Mother Tucker, where Tom ends up dating Peter's mother in Season 8, but of course, one of those appearances was in Stewie Griffin, The Untold Story. One thing about all this, I just find it strange how we didn't see Jake again for 6 seasons, and it's been another 6 seasons since we have seen him. Honestly though, I don't think Jake is going to be gone forever because of his extension through Tom Tucker, because Tom Tucker is a very prominent character in the show, and I just think the writers haven't found a gag that works for Jake. Like I said though, next time we do see Jake, I hope they incorporate the evil monkey with him. I think the two of them could actually have a pretty good dynamic, but with that being said, moving on to the final one. Number 10. Brian's son Dylan. Dylan was introduced in Season 6, Episode 11, titled The Former Life of Brian. In the episode, after Brian's dating life is going terrible, Brian remembers a girl that he actually really liked, but he was a jerk to her when they were younger. The girl Brian remembers is named Tracy Flanagan, and when Brian goes to see her, he is not only disgusted by her, but the situation she is living in. The show makes it pretty clear that Tracy is oblivious to how bad the situation is, because when Brian says she looks different, all she says is, yeah, haircut. Brian ends up trying to get out of the situation as fast as he can, but Tracy stops him, and she introduces him to his son Dylan. So Brian ends up going back to the house, and he tells Peter and Lois about the situation and how he couldn't get out of there fast enough. What follows then is Tracy dropping off Dylan at the Griffin's house. At first, when Dylan is living with them, Dylan and Brian aren't really getting along, and Dylan is being extremely disrespectful to the Griffins. This even goes as far as when Dylan was introduced to Chris, the first thing Dylan does is beat the crap out of the evil monkey. Brian eventually decides that Dylan has to go, but after a bag of weed is dropped and they both go for it, the two of them end up smoking it together and bonding, realizing that they had more in common than they realized, and they make the best out of a bad situation. From this point on, Brian became very overprotective over his son Dylan and had a change of heart. He got him a new haircut and cleaned up his wardrobe. What follows is Peter eventually ends up getting tired of Brian's overprotectiveness of Dylan. After this, Peter decided to convince Tracy to take Dylan back, and Brian doesn't want him to go, but Dylan wants to spread the positive influence Brian has made in his life and see if he can fix his mother's life. Now, later in Season 8, Episode 7, titled Jerome is the New Black, when Quagmire was ranting to Brian about how much he hates him, one of the things he throws in there is, "Oh, and how is that son you never see?" Now, something I've discovered that I haven't heard anyone notice or talk about is that Dylan didn't show up at Brian's funeral in Season 12, Episode 6, titled Life of Brian, so the bad blood and neglect between the two of them might run deeper than surface level. And this leads into Dylan's return in Season 12, Episode 11, titled Brian's a Bad Father, where Dylan returns after Brian finds out that Dylan is in a show called Disney Presents Bloopers. So, in the episode, Brian is hesitant about seeing his son Dylan, but as soon as he heard that Dylan was on the Disney Channel, he wanted to get back into his life to further his own career. Now, it should be noted that this is largely considered one of the worst episodes in the series by a lot of people, and I'm not going to touch too much on that because I'm going to save that for my worst Family Guy episodes list, so stay tuned for that. Brian in the episode ends up trying to weave his own influences into the show by having Dylan say lines that aren't in the script, and it almost gets Dylan in trouble along with getting Brian kicked out of the studio. Brian and Dylan end up making up at the end of the episode, but there is clearly still some bad blood between the two of them. We know this because later in Season 18, Episode 2, titled Brida, Brian tries giving Ida parenting advice, and when she asks how his son is doing, Brian quickly says, "We don't talk," and avoids getting into the conversation. Later on, in Season 19, Episode 11, titled Boy's Best Friend, when Brian ends up befriending a boy named Kyle, he admits he wants to do things right with Kyle because of his failure as a father to Dylan. So, did Brian accomplish this? Well...
How you doing, champ?
Okay, Cliff and I should be back by midnight. I left money for you two to order a pizza.
Sounds perfect. All right, Kyle, what do you say you and me watch some Stranger Things?
Brian made Kyle bread and butter and kept the pizza money.
I guess the title of the episode really does go to show. Brian truly is a bad father. So after this, the last time that Dylan was mentioned was actually in the current season. In Season 20, Episode 3, titled Dogs Must Love, Quagmire mentions Dylan again when Brian keeps asking Quagmire about his relationship with Carrie. When it comes to Dylan, I don't think he is a forgotten character as he has been mentioned across the series, even in the current season, but I'm not sure if we will see him again because of the backlash of Brian's a bad father. With that being said, only time will tell with what the writers decide to do with Dylan. Anyways guys though, if you liked the video, feel free to give it a like and subscribe and hit that notification bell. I'm not kidding when I say this video was a behemoth and it took me a long time to make. Also, my Discord is always open if you guys want to join on there. You can get live notifications for when I stream on Twitch. You can also give me video suggestions and topics I should cover in the future for the next Family Guy videos. I really appreciate every single one of you, and honestly, I didn't know if there were really enough missing characters to make another video, but thanks to your guys' comments, somehow we managed to find 10 more characters that we could fit into here, and I was happy to be able to cover them. But if you guys somehow still manage to find more characters that I should cover, feel free to leave them down in the comments, and I'll see if there's enough to make another missing characters list, but I highly doubt it. With all that being said though, thank you guys all so much for watching, and have a good one.